Sorry about that, Joe.
Oh, it's okay. I forgive you.
Right.
All
It's all
right.
right.
Well, we are on YouTube and we are the Monday Book Club and we are continuing our reading of Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And today we are beginning on chapter 3. And with that short introduction, I invite Des to begin the reading.
What are we looking at? Said Clarissa Dalloway to the maid who opened the door. The whole of the house was cool as a vault. Mrs. Dalloway raised her hand to her eyes, and as the maid shut the door too, and she heard the swish of Lucy's skirt, she felt like a nun who has left the world and feels fold round who has left the world and feels fold round her the familiar veils and the response to the devotions. The cook whistled in the kitchen. She heard the click of the typewriter. It was her life, and bending her head at the table, she bowed beneath the influence, felt blessed and purified, saying to herself, as she took the pad with the telephone message on it, how moments like this are buds on the tree of life. Flowers of darkness they are, she thought, as if some lovely rose had blossomed for her eyes only. Not for a moment did she believe in God, but all the more she thought, taking up the pad, must one repay in daily life to servants, yes, to dogs and canaries, above all to Richard, her husband, who was the foundation of the gay sounds, of the green lights, of the cook even whistling, for Mrs. Walker was Irish and whistled all day long. One must pay back from this secret deposit of exquisite moments, she thought, lifting the pad, while Lucy stood by her, trying to explain how. Next, please, Joan.
Uh, Mr. Dalloway, ma'am. Clarissa read on the telephone pad. Lady Burton wishes to know if Mr. Dalloway will lunch with her today. Mrs. Dalloway, ma'am, told me to tell you he wouldn't be lunching out. Dear, said Clarissa, and Susie shared as she meant to her disappointment, but not the pang felt the concord between them, took the hint, thought how the gentry loved, gilded her own future with calm, and taking Mrs. Galloway's parasol, handled it like a sacred weapon to which a goddess, having acquitted herself honorably in the field of battle, shuds and placed it in the umbrella stand. Fear no more, Clarissa. Fear no more the heat of the sun, for the shock of Lady Bruton asking Richard to lunch without her made the moment in which she had stood shiver as a plant on the river bed feels the shock of a passing oar and shivers, so she rocked, so she shivered. Um, Tom?
Millicent Bruton, whose lunch parties were said to be extraordinarily amusing, had not asked her. No vulgar jealousy could separate her from Richard, but she feared time itself, and read on Lady Bruton's face, as if it had been a dial cut in impassive stone, the dwindling of life. How year by year her share was sliced, how little the margin that remained was capable any longer of stretching, of absorbing, as in the youthful years, the colours, salts, tones of existence, so that she filled the room she entered, and felt often as she stood hesitating, one moment on the threshold of her drawing room, an exquisite suspense, such as might stay a diver before plunging, while the sea darkens and brightens beneath them, and the waves which threaten to break, but only gently split their surface, roll and conceal and encrust, as they just turn over the weeds with pearl. She put the pad on the hall table. She began to go slowly upstairs, with her hand on the banisters, as if she had left a party, where now this friend, now that, had flashed back her face, her voice, had shut the door and gone out and stood alone, a single figure against the appalling night, or rather, to be accurate, against the stare of this matter-of-fact June morning. Soft with the glow of rose petals for some, she knew and felt it as she paused by the open staircase window, which let in blinds flapping, dogs barking. Let in, she thought, feeling herself suddenly shriveled, aged, breastless, the grinding, blowing, flowering of the day, out of doors, out of the window, out of her body and brain, which now failed, since Lady Bruton, whose lunch parties were said to be extraordinarily amusing, had not asked her. Duncan?
Like a nun withdrawing, or a child exploring a tower, she went upstairs, paused at the window, came to the bathroom. It was green linoleum and a tap dripping. There was an emptiness about the heart of life, an attic room. Women must put off their rich apparel. At midday they must disrobe. She pierced the pincushion and laid her feathered yellow hat on the bed. The sheets were bright, tight stretched in a broad white band from side to side. Narrower and narrower would her bed be. The candle was half burnt down, and she had read deep in Baron Marbot's memoirs. She had read late at night of the retreat from Moscow. For the house sat so long that Richard insisted after her illness that she must sleep undisturbed. And really, she preferred to read of the retreat from Moscow. He knew it. So the room was an attic, the bed narrow, and lying there reading, for she slept badly, she could not dispel a virginity preserved through childbirth which clung to her like a sheet. Lovely in childhood. Suddenly there came a moment. For example, on the river near the woods at Kelivenden, when, through some contraction of this cold spirit, she had failed him. And then at Constantinople, and again, she could see what she lacked. It was not beauty, it was not mind. It was something central which permeated, something warm which broke up surfaces and rippled the cold contact of man and woman, or of woman together. For that she could dimly perceive. She resented it, had a scruple picked up from heaven knows where, and as she felt, sent by nature, who was invariably wise. Yet she could not resist sometimes yielding to the charm of a woman, not a girl, of a woman confessing, as to her they often did, some scrape, some folly. Next reader, please.
And whether it was pity or their beauty, or that she was older, or some accident like a faint scent or a violin next door, so strange is the power of sounds at certain moments, she did undoubtedly then feel what men felt. Only for a moment, but it was enough. It was a sudden revelation, a tinge like a blush, which one tried to check, and then, as it spread, one yielded to its expansion and rushed to the furthest verge, and there quivered and felt the world comes closer, swollen with some astonishing significance, some pressure of rapture which split its thick skin and gushed and poured with an extraordinary alleviation over the cracks and sores. Then, for that moment, she had seen an illumination, a match burning, and a crocus, an inner meaning almost expressed. But the clothes withdrew, the heart softened, and it was over, the moment. Against such moments with women, too, there contrasted, as she laid her hat down, the bed in the Baron Marbot and the candle half burnt. Lying awake, the floor creaked, the lit house was suddenly darkened, and if she raised her head, she could just hear the click of the handle released as gently as possible by Richard, who slipped upstairs in his socks and then, as often as not, dropped his hot water bottle and swore. How she laughed. Next, please.
This question of love, she thought, putting her coat away. This falling in love with women. Take Sally Seaton, her relation in the old days with Sally Seaton. Had not that, after all, been love? He sat on the floor. That was her first impression of Sally. Sat on the floor with her arms around her knees, smoking a cigarette. Where could it have been? The Mannings? The Knock Joneses? At some party where she could not be certain? For she had a distinct recollection of saying to the man she was with, "Who is that?" And he had told her and said that Sally's parents did not get on. How that shocked her, that one's parents should quarrel. But all that evening she could not take her eyes off Sally. It was an extraordinary beauty of the kind she most admired, dark, large-eyed, with that quality which, since she hadn't got it herself, she always envied. A sort of abandonment, as if she could say anything, do anything, a quality much commoner in foreigners than in English women. He always said she had French blood in her veins. An ancestor had been with Marie Antoinette. His head cut off, left a ruby ring. Perhaps that summer she came to stay at Bourton. Walking in quite unexpectedly, without a penny in her pocket, one night at dinner, and upsetting poor Aunt Helena to such an extent that she never forgave her. There had been some awful quarrel at home. She literally hadn't a penny that night when she came to them. Had won the brooch to come down. She'd in a passion. They sat up till all hours of the night talking. Sally it was who made her feel for the first time how sheltered the life at Bourton was. She knew nothing about sex, nothing about social problems. She'd not been an old man who had dropped dead in a field. She'd seen cows just after their calves were born. Like of any gave from William Morris, it had to be wrapped in brown paper. Here they sat hour after hour, talking in her bedroom at the top of the house, talking about life, how they were to reform the world, meant to found a society to abolish private property, and actually had a letter written, though not sent out. The ideas were Sally's, of course, but very soon she was just as excited. Read Plato in bed before breakfast, read Morris, read Shelley by the hour. Enjoy it.
Okay. Sally's power was amazing. Her gift, her personality. There was her way with flowers, for instance. At Burton, they always had stiff little vases all the way down the table. Sally went out, picked hollyhocks, dahlias, all sorts of flowers that had never been seen together, cut their heads off and made them swim on the tops of water in the bowls. The effect was extraordinary. Coming in to dinner in the sunset. Of course, Aunt Helena thought it wicked to treat flowers like that. Then she forgot her sponge and ran along the passage naked. That grim old housemaid Ellen Atkins went about grumbling. Suppose any of the gentlemen had seen. Indeed, she did shock people. She was untidy, Papa said. The strange thing, on looking back, was the purity, the integrity of her feeling for Sally. It was not like one's feeling for a man. It was completely disinterested. And besides, it had a quality which could only exist between women just grown up. It was protective on her side, sprang from a sense of being in league together. Presentiment of something that was bound to part them. They spoke of marriage always as a catastrophe, which led to this rivalry, this protective feeling, which was much more on her side than Sally's. Dave?
For in those days, she was completely reckless. Did the most idiotic things out of bravado, bicycled around the parapet on the terrace, smoked cigars. Absurd she was, very absurd. But the charm was overpowering, to her at least. so that she could remember standing in her bedroom at the top of the house, holding the hot water can in her hands and saying aloud, "She is beneath this roof. She is beneath this roof." All the words meant absolutely nothing to her now. She could not even get an echo of her old. But she could remember going cold with excitement and doing her hair in a kind of ecstasy. Now the old feeling began to come back to her. She took out her hairpins, laid them on the dressing table, began to do her hair, with the rooks flaunting up and down in the pink evening light, and dressing and going downstairs, feeling as she crossed the hall, if it were now to die, were now to be most happy. That was her feeling, Othello's feeling, and she felt it. She was convinced, as strongly as Shakespeare meant Othello to feel it, all because she was coming down to dinner in a white frock to meet Sally Seton. Anna?
She was wearing pink gauze, and that was wearing pink gauze. Was that possible? She seemed, anyhow, all light, glowing, like some bird or air ball that has flown in, attached itself for a moment to a bramble. But nothing is so strange when one is in love. And what was this except being in love? As the complete indifference of other people. Aunt Helena just wandered off after dinner. Papa read the paper. Peter Walsh might have been there, and old Miss Cummings. Joseph Brightcoff certainly was, for he came every summer, poor old man, for weeks and weeks, and pretended to read German with her, but really played the piano and sang Brahms without any voice. All this was only a background for Sally. She stood by the fireplace talking in that beautiful voice which made everything she said sound like a caress to Papa, who had begun to be attracted rather against his will. He never got over lending her one of his books and finding it soaked on the terrace, when suddenly she said, "What a shame to sit indoors." And they all went out on the terrace and walked up and down. Peter Walsh and Joseph Brightcoff went on about Wagner. She and Sally fell a little behind. Then came the most exquisite moment of her life, passing a stone urn with flowers in it. Sally stopped, picked a flower, kissed her on the lips. The whole world might have turned upside down. The others disappeared, and there she was alone with Sally, and she felt that she had been given a present, wrapped up and told just to keep it, not to look at it. A diamond, something infinitely precious, wrapped up, which, as they walked up and down, she uncovered, or the radiance burnt through the revelation, the religious feeling. When old Joseph and Peter faced them. "Star-gazing," said Peter. "It was like running one's face against a genuine wall in the darkness. It was shocking. It was horrible." Next.
Not for herself. She felt only how Sally was being mauled already, maltreated. She felt his hostility, his jealousy, his determination to break into their companionship. All this she saw as one sees a landscape in a flash of lightning, and Sally, never had she admired her so much, gallantly taking her way unvanquished. She laughed. She made old Joseph tell her the names of the stars, which he liked doing very seriously. She stood there, she listened, she heard the names of the stars. "Oh, this horror," she said to herself, as if she had known all along that something would interrupt, would embitter her moment of happiness. Yet how much she owed Peter Walsh later. Always when she thought of him, she thought of their quarrels for some reason, because she wanted his good opinion so much, perhaps. She owed him words, sentimental, civilized. They started up every day of her life as if he guarded her. A book was sentimental, an attitude to life sentimental, Sentimental, perhaps. She was thinking of the past. What would he think, she wondered, when he came back? That she'd grown older? Would he say that? Or would she see him thinking when he came back that she had grown older? It was true. Since her illness, she'd turned almost white. Laying her brooch on the table, she had a sudden spasm as if, while she mused, the icy claws had had the chance to fix in her. She was not old yet. She'd just broken into her 52nd year. Months and months of it were still untouched. June, July, August. Each still remained almost whole, and as if to catch the falling drop, Clarissa, crossing to the dressing table, plunged into the very heart of the moment, transfixed it there. The moment of this June morning, on which was the pressure of all other mornings, seeing the glass, the dressing table, and all the bottles afresh, collecting the whole of her at one point as she looked into the glass, seeing the delicate pink face of the woman who was that very night to give a party, of Clarissa Dalloway, of herself. Duncan.
How many times had she seen her face, and always with the same imperceptible contraction. She pursed her lips when she looked in the glass. It was to give her face point. That was herself, pointed, dart-like, definite. That was herself when some effort, some call on her to be herself, drew the parts together. She alone knew how different, how incompatible and composed, so for the world only, and composed so for the world only into one center, one diamond, one woman who sat in her drawing room and made a meeting point, a radiancy, no doubt, in some dull lives, a refuge for the lonely to come to, perhaps. She had helped young people who were grateful to her, had tried to be the same always, never showing a sign of all the other sides of her, faults, jealousies, vanities, suspicions, like this of Lady Burton, not asking her to lunch, which she thought, combing her hair finely, is utterly base. Now, where was her dress? Her evening dresses hung in the cupboard. Clarissa, plunging her hand into the softness, gently detached the green dress and carried it to the window. She'd torn it. Someone had trod on the skirt. She had felt it give at the embassy party at the top among the folds. By artificial light the green shone, but lost its color now in the sun. She would mend it. Her maids had too much to do. She would wear it tonight. She would take her silks, her scissors, what was it? Oh, her thimble, of course, down into the drawing room, for she must also write and see that things generally were more or less in order. Next.
It's
Yes,
it's
I
uh,
think we
it's
missed.
Des, I think there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did I go out of order here? I did go out of order.
Sorry, that was all, folks. I, kind of having difficulty reading anything nowadays.
Yeah, old age.
Old age.
Strange,
In your moment. Sorry, Duncan. I beg your pardon.
strange, she
It's
thought.
fine.
Pause.
Take it away, Des.
Okay, try again. Strange, she thought, pausing on the landing and assembling that diamond shape, that single person. Strange how a mistress knows the very moment, the very temper of her house. Faint sounds rose in spirals up the well of the stairs, the swish of a mop, tapping, knocking, a loudness when the front door opened, a voice repeating a message in the basement, the chink of silver on a tray, clean silver for the party. All was for the party. And Lucy, coming into the drawing room with her tray held out, put the giant candlesticks on the mantelpiece, the silver casket in the middle, turned the crystal dolphin towards the clock. They would come, they would stand, they would talk in the mincing tones which she could imitate, ladies and gentlemen. Of all, her mistress was loveliest, the mistress of silver, of linen, of china for the sun, the silver doors off their hinges. Rumpelmayer's men gave her a sense, as she laid the paper knife on the inlaid table, of something achieved. Behold, behold, she said, speaking to her old friends in the baker's shop, where she had first seen service at Caterham, prying into the glass. She was Lady Angela attending Princess Mary when it came Mrs. Dalloway. Next, please.
The next
Joan.
one, Joan, you have to unmute yourself, Joan. I muted you because there was some sound leaking through.
Oh, with that traffic outside.
Yeah.
Where am I? Oh, Lucy, she said, this silver does look nice. And how, she said, turning the crystal dolphin to stand straight. How did you enjoy the play last night? Oh, they had to go before the end, she said. They had to be back by 10, she said. So they don't know what happened, she said. That does seem hard luck, she said, for her servants stayed later if they asked her. That does seem rather a shame, she said, taking the old bald-looking cushion in the middle of the sofa and putting it in Lucy's arms and giving her a little push and crying, Take it away. Give it to Mrs. Walker with my compliments. Take it away, she cried. And Lucy stopped at the drawing room door, holding the cushion, and said very shyly, turning a little pink, Couldn't she help to mend that dress? But, said Mrs. Dalloway, she thought enough on her hands already, quite enough of her own to do that without that. But thank you, Lucy. Oh, thank you, said Mrs. Dalloway. And thank you, she went on saying, sitting down on the sofa with her dress over her knees, her scissors, her silk. Thank you, she went on saying in gratitude to her servants generally for helping her to be like this, to be what she wanted, gentle, generous-hearted. Her servants liked her. And then this dress of hers. Where was the tear? And now the needle to be threaded. This was a favorite dress, one of Sally Parker's. The last almost she ever made, alas, for Sally had now retired, living at Ealing. And ever I had a moment, thought Clarissa, but never would she have a moment any more. I shall go and see her at Ealing. For she was a character, thought Clarissa, a real artist. She thought of little out-of-the-way things, yet her dresses were never queer. You could wear them at Hatfield, at Buckingham Palace. She had worn them at Hatfield, at Buckingham Palace. Next, please.
Quiet descended on her, calm, content as her needle, drawing the silk smoothly through its gentle paws, collected the green folds together and attached them very lightly to the belt. So on a summer's day, waves collect, overbalance and fall, collect and fall, and the whole world seems to be saying, that is all, more and more ponderously, until even the heart and the body, which lies in the sun on the beach, says too, that is all. Fear no more, says the heart. Fear no more, says the heart, committing its burden to some sea, which sighs collectively for all sorrows, and renews, begins, collects, lets fall. And the body alone listens to the passing bee, the wave breaking, the dog barking, far away barking and barking. Heavens, the front bell, exclaimed Clarissa, staying her needle. Roused, she listened. Mrs. Dalloway will see me, said the elderly man in the hall. Oh, yes, she will see me, he repeated, putting Lucy aside very benevolently and running upstairs ever so quickly. Yes, 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 he muttered as he ran upstairs. She will see me. After 5 years in India, Clarissa will see me. What can? Asked Mrs. Dalloway, thinking it was outrageous to be interrupted at 11 o'clock on the morning of the day she was giving a party, hearing a step on the stairs. She heard a hand upon the door. She made to hide her dress like a virgin, protecting chastity, respecting privacy. Now the brass knob slipped. Now the door opened, and in came. For a single second, she could not remember what he was called. So surprised she was to see him, so glad, so shy, so utterly taken aback to have Peter Walsh come to her unexpectedly in the morning. She had not read his letter. Next.
And
Oh,
how are you? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Katrina.
Go ahead.
Katrina. Yes,
Sorry.
Katrina, go ahead.
And how are you? Said Peter Walsh, positively trembling, taking both her hands, kissing both her hands. She's grown older, he thought, sitting down. I shan't tell her anything about it, he thought, for she's grown older. She's looking at me, he thought, a sudden embarrassment coming over him, though he had kissed her hands. Putting his hand into his pocket, he took out a large pocket knife and half opened the blade. Exactly the same, thought Clarissa. The same queer look, the same check suit, a little out of the straight his face is, with a little thinner, drier, perhaps, but he looks awfully well, and just the same. How heavenly it is to see you again, she exclaimed. He had his knife out. That's so like him, she thought. He had only reached downtown last night, he said, would have to go down into the country at once. And how was everything? How was everybody, Richard and Elizabeth? And what's all this? He said, tilting his penknife towards her green dress. He's very well dressed, thought Clarissa. Yet he always criticizes me. Here she is mending her dress as usual, he thought. Here she's been sitting all the time I've been in India, mending her dress, playing about, going to parties, running to the house and back and all that, he thought, growing more and more irritated, more and more agitated, for there's nothing in the world so bad as for some women as marriage, he thought, and politics, and having a conservative husband like the admirable Richard. So it is, he thought, shutting his knife with a snap. Next, please.
Richard's very well. Richard's at a committee, said Clarissa. And she opened her ears and said, did you mind her just finishing what she was doing to her dress? For they had a party that night. Which I shan't ask you to, she said. My dear Peter, she said. But it was delicious to hear her say that, my dear Peter. Indeed, it was also delicious. The silver chairs also delicious. Why wouldn't she ask him to her party, he asked. Now, of course, thought Clarissa, he's enchanting, perfectly enchanting. Now I remember how impossible it was ever to make up my mind. And why did I make up my mind? Not to marry, she wondered, that awful summer. But it's so extraordinary that you should have come this morning, she cried, putting her hands one on top of the other down on her dress. Do you remember, she said, how the blinds used to flap fortune? Yes. Remember breakfasting alone, very awkwardly, with her father who had died, and he had not written to Clarissa. He had never got on very well with old Parry. The neat old man, Clarissa's father, Justin Parry. I often wish I'd gotten on better with your father, he said. But he never liked anyone who, our friends, said Clarissa, and could have been tongue for thus reminding Peter that he had wanted to marry her. Of course I did, thought Peter. It almost broke my heart too, he thought, and was overcome with his own grief, which rose like the moon looked at from a terrace, ghastly, beautiful with light from the sunken day. I was more unhappy than I've ever been since, he thought. And as if in truth he were sitting there on the terrace, he edged a little towards Clarissa, hand out, raised the ball. There above hung that moon, She too seemed to be sitting with him on the terrace in the moonlight. As it now, she said. I never go there now, she said. Then, just as on the terrace in the moonlight, when one person begins to feel ashamed that he is already bored, and yet the other sits silent, very quiet, sadly looking at the moon, does not like to speak, moves his foot, clears his throat, notices some iron scroll on a table leg, stirs a leaf but says nothing. So Peter watched it now. For why go back like this to the past, he thought. Why make him think of it again? I make it tortured him so infernally. Why?
Do you remember the lake, she said, in an abrupt voice, under the pressure of an emotion which caught her heart, made the muscles of her throat stiff, and contracted her lips in a spasm as she said lake. When she was a child, throwing bread to the ducks between her parents, and at the same time a grown woman coming to her parents who stood by the lake, holding her life in her arms, which, as she neared them, grew larger and larger in her arms, until it became a whole life, a complete life, which she put down by them and said, "This is what I've made of it, this." And what had she made of it? What indeed? Sitting there sewing this morning with Peter. She looked at Peter Walsh. Her look, passing through all that time and that emotion, reached him doubtfully, settled on him tearfully, and rose and fluttered away, as a bird touches a branch and rises and flutters away. Quite simply, she wiped her eyes. Dave?
Yes, said Peter. Yes, 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 he said, as if he drew up to the surface something which positively hurt him as it rose. Stop, stop, he wanted to cry. For he was not old, his life was not over, not by any means. He was only just past 50. Shall I tell her, he thought, or not? He would like to make a clean breast of it all. But she is too cold, he thought, sewing with her scissors. Daisy would look ordinary beside Clarissa. She would think me a failure, which I am in their sense, he thought, in the Dalloway's sense. Oh yes, he had no doubt about that. He was a failure compared with all this. The inlaid table, the mounted paper knife, the dolphin and the candlesticks, the chair covers, and the old, valuable English tinted prints. He was a failure. I detest the smugness of the whole affair, he thought. Richard's doing, not Clarissa's, save that she married him. Here Lucy came into the room carrying silver, more silver, but charming, slender, graceful she looked, he thought, as she stooped to put it down. And this has been going on all the time, he thought, week after week. Clarissa's life, while he thought. And at once everything seemed to radiate from him. Journeys, rides, quarrels, adventures, bridge parties, love affairs, work, work, work. And he took out his knife quite openly, his old horn-handled knife with which Clarissa could swear he had had these 30 years, and clenched his fist upon it. Anna? You're muted, Anna.
What an extraordinary habit that was, Clarissa thought. Always playing with a knife, always making one feel too frivolous, empty-minded. A mere silly chatterbox, as he used. But I too, she thought, and taking up her needle, summoned like a queen whose guards have fallen asleep and left her unprotected. She had been quite taken aback by this visit. It had upset her, so that anyone can stroll in and have a look at her where she lies with the brambles curving over her, summoned to her help the things to help the things she did, the things she liked, her husband, Elizabeth, herself, in short, which Peter hardly knew now, all to come about her and something.
Beat off the enemy.
Yeah, beat off the enemy. Okay, thank you. Well, and what's happened to you, she said. So before a battle begins, the horses paw the ground toss their heads, and the light shines on their flanks, their necks curve. So Peter Walsh and Clarissa, sitting side by side on the blue sofa, challenged each other. His powers chafed and tossed and tossed in him. He assembled from different quarters all sorts of things: praise, his career at Oxford, his marriage, which she knew nothing whatsoever about, how he had loved and altogether done his job. Next.
Millions of things, he exclaimed, and urged by the assembly of powers which were now charging this way and that, and giving him the feeling at once frightening and extremely exhilarating of being rushed through the air on the shoulders of people he could no longer see. He raised his hands to his forehead. Clarissa sat very upright, drew in her breath. "I am in love," he said. Not to her, however, but to someone raised up in the dark, so that you could not touch her, but must lay your garland down on the grass in the dark. "In love," he repeated, now speaking rather dryly to Clarissa Dalloway, "in love with a girl in India." He had deposited his garland. Clarissa could make what she would of it. "In love," she said, "that he at his age could be sucked under in his little bow tie by that monster. And there's no flesh on his neck. His hands are red. And he's 6 months older than I am." Her eye flashed back to her, but in her heart she felt all the same, he is in love. He has that. She felt he is in love. But the indomitable egotism which forever rides down the hosts opposed to it, the river which says on, even though it admits there may be no goal for us, whatever, still on. This indomitable egotism charged her cheeks with colour, made her look very young, very pink, very bright-eyed, as she sat with her dress upon her knee and her needle held to the end of green silk, trembling a little. He was in love, not with her, with some younger woman, of course. "And who is she?" she asked. Now this statue must be brought from its height and set down between them. "A married woman, unfortunately," he said. My wife was a major in the Indian Army." And with a curious ironical sweetness he smiled as he placed her in this ridiculous way before Clarissa. All the same, he is in love, thought Clarissa. "She has," he continued very reasonably, "2 small children, a boy and a girl, and I've come over to see my lawyers about the divorce." There they are, he thought. Do what you like with them, Clarissa. There they are. And second by second it seemed to him that the wife of the major in the Indian Army, his Daisy, and her 2 small children became more and more lovely as Clarissa looked at them, as if he had set light to a grey pellet on a plate, and there had risen up a lovely tree in the brisk sea-salted air of their intimacy. For in some ways no one understood him, felt with him as Clarissa did, their exquisite intimacy. She flattered him, she fooled him, thought Clarissa, shaping the woman, the wife of the major in the Indian Army, with 3 strokes of a knife. What a waste, what a folly! All his life long Peter had been fooled like that, first getting down from Oxford, next marrying the girl in the boat going out to India, now the wife of a major. Thank heaven she had refused to marry him. Still, he was in love. Her old friend, her dear Peter. He was in love. Des? Definitely Des.
"But what are you going to do?" she asked him. "Oh, the lawyers and solicitors, Messrs. Hooper and Greatley of Lincoln's Inn. They were going to do it," he said. And he actually pared his nails with his pocket knife. "For heaven's sake, leave your knife alone," she cried to herself in irrepressible irritation. It was his silly unconventionality, his weakness, his lack of a ghost of a notion what anyone else was feeling that annoyed her. He always annoyed her. And now at his age, how silly. I know all that, Peter thought. I know what I'm up against, he thought, running his finger along the blade of his knife. Clarissa and Dalloway, and all the rest of them. I'll show Clarissa. And then, to his utter surprise, suddenly thrown by these uncontrollable forces, thrown through the air, he burst into tears, wept without the least shame, sitting on the sofa, the tears running down his cheeks. And Clarissa had leant forward, taken his hand, drawn him to her, kissed him, actually had felt his face on hers before she could down the brandishing of silver clashing plumes like pampas grass in a tropic gale in her breast, which, subsiding, left her holding his hand, patting his knee, and feeling as she sat back extraordinarily at her ease with him, and light-hearted. All in a clap it came over her. If I had married him, this gaiety would have been mine all day. Next, please.
And then next is Joan. Joan, you have to unmute yourself.
You're doing it.
Yeah, I'm
It was
sorry. I'm pretty much always going to mute you after you finish reading. So
okay.
might as well get in the habit of unmuting yourself.
I shall try. It was all over for her. The sheet was stretched and the bed narrow. She had gone up into the tower alone and left them black burying in the sun. The door had shut, and there among the dust of fallen plaster and the litter of birds' nests, how distant the view had looked, and the sounds came thin and chill. Once on Leith Hill, she remembered. And Richard, she cried as a sleeper in the nightshirts and stretches a hand in the dark for help. Lunching with Lady Burton, it came back to her. He has left me. I am alone forever, she thought, folding her hands upon her knee. Peter Welsh had got up and crossed to the window and stood with his back to her, flicking a bandana handkerchief from side to side. Masterly and dry and desolate he looked, his thin shoulder blades lifting his coat slightly, blowing his nose violently. Take me with you, Clarissa, Clarissa thought impulsively, as if he were starting directly upon some great voyage. And then, next moment, it was as if 5 acts of a play had been very exciting and moving were now over, and she had lived a lifetime in them, and had run away, and lived with Peter, and it was now over. Next, please. Tom.
Now it was time to move, and as the woman gathered her things together, her cloak, her gloves, her opera glasses, and gets up to go out of the theatre into the street, she rose from the sofa and went to Peter. And it was awfully strange, he thought, how she still had the power as she came tinkling, rustling, still had the power as she came across the room to make the moon, which he detested, rise at Burton on the terrace in the summer sky. Tell me, he said, seizing her by the shoulders, are you happy, Clarissa? Does Richard? The door opened. Here is my Elizabeth, said Clarissa, emotionally, histrionically, perhaps. How do you do, said Elizabeth, coming forward. The sound of Big Ben striking the half hour struck out between them with extraordinary vigour, as if a young man, strong, indifferent, inconsiderate, were swinging dumbbells this way and that. Hello, Elizabeth, cried Peter, stuffing his handkerchief into his pocket, going quickly to her, saying, Goodbye, Clarissa, without looking at her, leaving the room quickly and running downstairs and opening the hall door. Peter, Peter, cried Clarissa, following him out onto the landing. My party, remember my party tonight, she cried, having to raise her voice against the roar of the open air, and overwhelmed by the traffic and the sound of all the clocks striking. Her voice crying, remember my party tonight, sounded frail and thin, and very far away as Peter Walsh shut the door.
Oh my God.
Bravo.
Oh my God.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
Remarkable, remarkable.
Yeah, I think what we read is a great contrast to the first two portions that we read, where it was all movement and she was crossing streets and she was thinking of other places and going everywhere. And this is suddenly a set piece in the house and all the thoughts of the people interacting. Yeah.
It still had that quality of being in her head.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and his
Oh, yeah. Well, it is her head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in her head.
What, am I out of my gourd to thinking that this reminds me of Samuel Beckett?
Yes. Yes.
It seemed to be I don't know if Beckett, I assume Beckett read some of Woolf. I mean, yeah, there's something,
She switches point of view consistently through it as the
Yeah.
thoughts pass through her mind. She jumps into, she changes the point of view in here into whoever she's thinking of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know Beckett well enough whether he did that, but certainly Joyce did it.
yeah. Well, I don't mean in necessarily all the particulars, but just in this kind of, very, it's almost solipsistic.
Yes. Yeah.
Her world is what's going on with her at the moment.
Yeah.
But she's remembering her affair with Sally, or her love of Sally and Sally's life and excitement, and then giving up Peter for Richard. It's just brilliantly summarized, and you feel it. You feel the dilemma of the decision.
Yeah.
But
And also sort of a remorse that
She couldn't have it all.
yeah.
well, she wouldn't have gotten it all, no matter what her choice was.
Yeah,
She wouldn't have gotten it all. That's I
Oh.
think,
of course not.
because there's no all there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all imaginary. It seems to me it's all imaginary. And the scene with Peter, when Peter rushes in and there's all this dramatic stuff, and then she tells him that he can't come to the party. And then there's all this other stuff, and then the last part of the chapter is she saying, Peter, come to the party, come to the party.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this really happening, or is this in her imagination? Changed my mind a few times as we read it. I think it's real. I don't know how.
I think it's
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah. Very much real. I think there's a sense of she's regretting her situation of life. And then at the end, she says, if I married him, this Katie would have been mine all day.
All day, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a fantasy, lad.
But she also says, well, it wouldn't have worked. And
Yeah.
Well, yeah, she knows that. Yeah, this is the contradiction in her.
this is what it's like. I have a relationship in my life that I refer to as my ex from hell. And this is like once every 5 years the phone rings. And it's a conversation like this that I'm dealing with.
Okay.
I think she is the ex from hell.
She is.
Well, I don't think the part that I find amazing is, is she really a person?
Is she really?
Is she really a person?
Mrs. Dalloway?
Mrs. Dalloway, I mean, I know she's a person,
Yeah.
in the sense that she, at least on paper, she lives and she breathes and
All
she
right.
has relations, but is she really a person, or is she a void that ghosts keep on traveling through, and every time there's a new ghost that comes through,
Yeah.
she becomes that person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
she's modeled her life on what is expected of her rather than following her own inclinations.
that's
Yeah.
what it feels to me.
Yeah, so she's unfulfilled on her own personal level, and you're picking up on that.
Yeah, she said that in the
Yeah.
first, didn't she? Where she said, I just became not even myself, just a Dalloway.
Yeah,
I'm Dalloway.
yeah, passing through time and events.
Yeah, and
Mm.
she's only just turned 50, and you can sort of see it. I think she's a very unhappy person.
Yeah,
She seems to feel happy though. In the earlier section that Tom Kennedy was speaking about when she was outside, she does seem to be one who enjoys the sensation of life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's a
well,
much more somber look at her here. In fact, Des, the point I was actually going to ask you about is when she uses the word gaiety, have this gaiety every day. He's crying. Is it possible she's using gaiety in an ironic sense?
I don't think so. I think she actually meant it at the time that she said it. The problem is
Okay.
that she's,
Strange
if I
word
may
to
use it,
use.
she's so vacuous,
hmm
that whatever emotion she's feeling is fleeting.
yeah.
It's gonna be replaced by something else real soon.
There's something wrong with her emotions. That's right.
hmm
It's as if Peter represents a potential emotional life and Richard represents no emotional life. Something like that. She's unfulfilled in that sense, and
Yeah,
therefore appears as nothing.
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
I
like
think she realizes that she can, in some way, comfort him. And this is something which she would not be able to do with Richard.
Oh, you mean with Peter? Yeah, she can comfort
She
Peter.
can, she can comfort Peter and feel good about that. That is the gaiety aspect of it.
Because he's going to rush out the door.
Yeah, he's going to go.
He's going to go. So, she has very good skills at responding to the moment.
I don't know if this is actually correct or not, because I read this so very long ago, but it seems to me that I read something where in Virginia Woolf's life, her husband really lets her go her own way.
Leonard.
And Leonard, yes.
Mhm.
And that she really does have her own life. And also that she is a gay woman.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Or bi.
Pardon?
Or bisexual.
Yeah,
bi.
maybe. Or maybe both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm very sympathetic to her. I don't necessarily think she's vacuous, but I think she does have a variety of moods and emotions during the day, as maybe we do sometimes. And I think that she, at 52, has the feeling that some of us maybe have when we're not feeling at our best, and that is that some of the best things in life have passed us by.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where I feel sympathetic to her. And I have actually a fairly happy life, but sometimes,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you want more than you could possibly have.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. That is such a good way to put it. You want your cake and eat it too some days, don't you, Joan?
Yes, you do.
Yep, I agree.
Well, a lot of people want to be able to satisfy the social thing,
Yeah.
and sacrifice themselves to satisfy the social part of things. It's a choice people have to make, and of course we make it in different proportions at different parts of life. But like December is a particularly interesting month in this regard.
Yeah.
Yes.
because there's so many social routines
Oh,
that are kind of set.
yes.
The family dinner, the presents, the everybody's got to be happy. The memories of the past, all of these things, uh, which I think in some people that it's all very sincere. But
Yeah.
a lot of people, I see a lot of, I belong to a group on Facebook, very interesting group actually, called Aging Solo.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an amazing group. People are, I mean, there is a lot of pretense going on, but there's also a lot of, this is my reality.
Yeah.
And, you can usually tell that something's honest when their reality is not all happy smiles,
Yeah.
but has a lot of complaints. And it's very interesting, and it's interesting watching how people are dealing with the Thanksgiving to Christmas thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And the people who are hard to deal with are those who try to lift you out of your life and put you down on Christmas Day in their life and be nice to you. They don't realize how awful that feels to be the person lifted out of their life and put down inside of Christmas Day.
or it's just an embarrassment. I ran into my daughter the other day, and she and her partner were at a supermarket cafe place, and we sat down and talked, and she asked me what I was doing for Christmas, and I said, well, really, I don't plan on doing much for Christmas. And it was like, well, you can come join us over
Oh,
at
there we
the
go. Yeah.
resort. And it was like, I really appreciate the offer, but I would rather take care of your chicken at your house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know exactly what you mean, Duncan. I
Okay.
plan to stock up on food and lock the front door.
Yeah. I'll say me too as well. I've already got the text, and that's not just on Christmas Day. That's Christmas Day for the rest of your life. You'll be expected there, and that's too long a sentence.
Yeah. But anyway, coming back to Virginia Woolf and particularly Mrs. Dalloway, I think Mrs. Dalloway strikes me as being she has been such a people pleaser all of her life that at the age of 52, there's a serious question. Is there a Mrs. Dalloway?
And yet, at times, she's not been a people pleaser. She told Peter Walsh that she wouldn't marry him.
Yeah,
She came to a fork in the road there.
right.
And this is, Tom, I'd like to swing back to you because I really appreciate the point you made about we moved from this rather large canvas in the first part we looked at last week to a much narrower setting. And I must say it was staring me in the face, but I didn't see it till you pointed it out. I would add to what you said that we don't see Septimus in this section either.
No.
Yeah,
Whereas
well,
he does
he's
appear.
out on the street. Yeah,
That's right. He appears throughout the novel. We certainly
Yeah.
becomes an important figure through the novel, but we don't see him here.
Well, she had, in The Voyage Out, which was about 10 years earlier, she had Mr. and Mrs. Dalloway as characters.
Ah,
And then she was working on a short story,
Yeah.
Mrs. Dalloway or something. But eventually it turned into this novel.
Okay.
I
Was
think
it the
she's-
hours?
No, I think it was The Voyage Out. I think they were on a
Oh,
ship
there's the
or
voice
something.
out, yeah, and there's another
Yeah.
night and day or something.
Yeah, I don't think they were kind of the same as they're here, but that's where she started with this, yeah. And she has a short story somewhere along the line as well about Mrs. Dalloway, and I don't know whether that was complete or not, and then it turned into this. So,
So Mrs.
Yeah.
Dalloway appears in different works, in different
well,
forms.
she's mentioned, yeah, and the husband, Richard, yeah.
Okay.
And of course, in this course, she has a daughter as well.
Yeah,
You know,
Elizabeth.
and
Elizabeth.
so she has settled into, however happy or unhappy it is, she has settled. She made her decision by refusing Peter Wright and married Richard and had a daughter with him. So she's kind of settled in that sense.
And Sally Seton seems to have disappeared as far as we know at this point, Tom.
Yeah.
We know at this
Yeah.
point in time.
As far as we
But-
know.
Well, she says Sally is in Yuling. I wondered if that was like what is Yuling? That's where the BBC is located, I believe.
The
but-
Ealing comedies were made in later years. That's right. I picked up.
Yeah, I mean, is she in a nursing home? Is she, has something befallen her?
Well, she's obviously kept up with her in some ways because she knows where she is.
She knows where she is, but she said she hasn't gone to visit her.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's a decision she's made to not open that. The other thing about this, about Mrs. Dalloway, is that this is an interior monologue in a sense, but she is responsible for the decisions she's made and the consequences that happened. So it's not so easy. It might be easier if her parents had said, no, you can't marry Peter, but she's made the decision and she's still equivocating about the consequences of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How long has Peter been away? Is it only 5 years?
5 years is
A very short time. That means she was 45 years of age or 40s.
Yeah.
47.
So my sense, and I want people to correct me if I'm wrong, is that he's been in India for a while, but the last time he came back for a visit was 5 years ago.
That's what I would think.
That would make more sense.
That makes
Yeah.
5 years is nothing in terms of,
No,
No.
Yeah, gotcha.
But
But he is also married. He's also married an Indian girl before that. I think it says it's somewhere in the thing, and now he's looking for a divorce.
Yeah.
To marry this other Indian woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
he
wife.
married someone he
wife
met
of
on
an
the journey
officer.
out.
And the journey out, yeah.
Yeah.
she's married to a major in the Indian Army, which may mean that she's actually British.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the officers in the Indian Army were actually expat Brits.
Of course.
but
Yeah.
that would be who he wants to marry.
You know,
The woman who's married to the major and
That's
has the
right.
2 kids.
Yeah.
but he has been married before, right? Because
Yeah, he has.
Yeah,
and
he
he's
married
now
on
seeking the
impulse on the way
divorce.
out.
Yeah.
Well, I think that Peter is probably correct in picking someone who's fairly inaccessible.
Is
It
this
seems to be his specialty, so to
is this
speak.
Peter? You mean Peter?
The Peter who wanted to
okay.
marry Mrs.
Okay.
Dalloway,
Right. Okay.
and was rejected by her.
Mm.
The marriage on the way out with the woman he met on the boat going out.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's probably an
reflex
English
action.
woman.
Yeah, that was a reflex action from being
Yeah.
turned down.
Well, on the
Yeah.
rebound. On the rebound, we say in North America.
Yeah.
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 Well,
How
if
how-
Peter is like Mrs. Dalloway, and of course I'm being judgmental here, so take it for what it's worth. That Peter also is a reactive type person.
Yeah.
That he hasn't he is not found his center.
Yeah.
Just as it seems that Mrs. Dalloway has not found her center. She's so concerned with the social thing outside that she's never developed a rich, more or less self-contained interior life to develop.
Yeah.
Yes.
So look at how nervous she is about the fact that her husband Richard has been invited by this woman whose name I can't remember. That he's been invited and she was not invited. And
Lady
she's,
Bruton.
yeah, okay. And she's very upset about that.
Yeah.
Though she claims not to be.
Does she? Well,
No. I'm totally in agreement.
Yeah.
I am in vehement agreement with you, Duncan. She's
Vehement agreement.
deluding herself that this doesn't bug her, as it does. It keeps
How old-
coming up.
Yeah. How old was she when she kissed Sally? Because this is something that when she thinks of love, she thinks of Sally.
Right.
How many years back is this? Were they teenagers?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think
Teen-
it's quite some time back.
young people. Mhm.
Long time
This
ago.
is sort of 30 years is still rumbling through her head.
Yeah.
Right. That's a
Well,
good
I
point.
think that was a big decision point right there.
Yeah.
She was attracted to the quote free-spirited Sally, but she couldn't go there.
Yeah.
And so, she decided to settle for the conventional life, which the character Sally seems to have rejected.
Yeah.
So she was attracted to an unconventional life, but she couldn't go there.
No.
So
see,
she
with
married
Richard- Well, with
Cool.
Richard, he validates her life.
Yeah.
His accolades are her, reflect on her and make her somebody.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he seems caring.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is
he may not have a clue.
no. How much do we know about other people's interior lives? That's a good question. That's a good point, Anna.
Like most men.
Things are walking dry.
Okay. No, but how many times have we said to our spouses, okay, like, what are you thinking here, right?
What do you really think? You cannot look into the soul of anyone's marriage.
Oh,
even
yeah,
your
for
own,
I know time is short and for us, but I also wanted to say that I find myself really drawn to Mrs. Dalloway because, like all of us who are, I think as I look at the screen, all of us are closer to the end than the beginning, and she talks about the wrinkles, about being ill, losing physical capacity, turning the hair is turning white.
Mhm.
And that's something that we have all had to deal with. Is diminishing physical capacity,
Oh, yeah.
and she's picking up on this at 52, and
That's young for
could you say that again, Joan, please?
52. I think of as being still very young and vigorous.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do too now. I do too now, but I
Right,
don't
but it is
necessarily at the time.
Yeah, it is a turning point.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is a turning point, and I don't know. I mean, everybody has their own experience, but I would say that in my early to mid 50s, I went through a crisis point
Yes.
Right.
where I basically, I had some illnesses that I dealt with, not serious illnesses, but just ones that went, wait a minute, what's going on? This is something new. And I finally figured out, that just like around the age of 29, which is when I had a clinical practice, a lot of people at 29 to 33 are going, I just don't understand. I don't have the energy that I used to have. And that's a decision point where you can either pretend that you're still in your mid-20s up until 45 and then it really hammers you, or you make a decision. Well, I just can't do what I used to do. And then it happens again at 50. So, but I think 50, that early 50s thing to me is a real big decision point.
Yeah.
Others call that a male menopause.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first menopause. But isn't there a brilliant moment there? The moment where I like her, where she suddenly says, "Don't forget the party tonight." She just spontaneously does this emotional reaction, and then all the clocks start ringing. You can imagine an English setting,
Yeah.
dong, 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 and she can't be heard over the clocks. But I think that moment, she becomes a real person. Do you said a real person, Duncan? I think she does at that moment. You see the real Clarissa, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
She is
well,
she's a harmless person.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, Des. That's correct. to this point, we
I'm
don't
not
see her
sure
when
how
she-
harmless she is.
Well, we'll see.
You see,
You
well,
know,
she seems to be rather no guile there at all, guileless.
That's it. That's always the way.
Well, let's see if
up the
Peter
street.
comes back for the party and what happens if he comes
Yeah.
back for the party.
Well, why is your man carrying a knife all the time? I thought he was going to stop.
but here we're at our time. It just the other thing, I guess, is she's 52, and for many of us, there comes a point where we look and go, this is our life. This is my life, because you have all these options, as you're moving through your teens and into your 20s, and sometimes in your 30s. But at 52, she's got fewer options. This is my life, and I think that also resonates with me.
I never.
Some of us over 50s might be able to remember. Can you see if there's any?
What are you showing us here?
It's the hot water bottle. It's
Hot water bottle.
Okay, there's a hot water bottle.
Yeah.
the old-fashioned one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
what
well,
the
I've
one-
modernized. The heating pad is my
Right.
instrument of choice.
When he was, I mean, she remembers this as often as not. He dropped his hot water bottle and swore, and then she has how she laughed. So there was real fondness there and openness, rather than the crash of waking her. It was his attempt to what's the word? To allow her to sleep without waking her, without disturbing her.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He did, and he did it time and again, as often as not.
We're talking about Richard in this case, right?
Richard, yes, Richard being unwilling to upset her in any way.
Mhm. Mhm. It'll be interesting to see.
And still there's the impression that he is quite separated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he must be if he's got going down to get a hot water bottle. He's obviously feeling a bit cold.
Well,
But he did send her to the
whole
tower.
thing. I realize our time is up, but I mean, suddenly did
He
they?
sent her to the tower, Joe.
He sent her to, yeah, they're sleeping in different rooms, obviously, if she hasn't.
Yeah, but he sent her to the tower, up to top.
Until,
Well, she was sick, and we didn't get much
She's better.
information on that, did we?
Yeah,
She's
hard.
better,
It was
but she
a
was
hard
sick.
issue.
Say that again, Dave.
Sorry, I reread last week's part last night. It was a heart issue.
She had a heart issue.
Yeah.
Oh.
In those Edwardian days, it wasn't unusual for couples to sleep in separate rooms.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is Georgian here. This is 1923. But your point may still be valid. Your point may well still be valid.
Yes, yeah.
But doesn't Peter come running up the stairs to her room?
She's in a different room. She's not in her bedroom.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
She's taken her sewing project down below to some
Okay.
neutral
Good.
room. So
I was
he's not
wondering.
barging into her
Okay.
bedroom. We're not.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of novel.
Does anybody know the reference to this Baron Marbot and William
Yes.
Morris?
I have notes on those. If you're not in a hurry to go, I'll read what I have for both. Okay, Baron Marbot's memoirs. Jean-Baptiste Antoine Marcelin Baron de Marbot was a French general, 1782 to 1854. Morris, William Morris, poet and artist, 1834 to 96, no doubt regarded as unsuitable because of his socialist beliefs. Does that help out?
Yeah, he was kind of a wild boy for the
Yes.
times.
He was. I didn't know that.
That's your bedside reading, is his the Baron's memoirs.
Right.
Wasn't Morris the artist who did all the fabrics?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so, yeah. This is the
Wallpapers.
second one.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have in the Victoria and Albert Museum, they have got practically a whole room devoted to his stuff.
Mhm, mhm.
His idea was to get away from the industrialized materials
Mm.
and to have handcrafted or
Right. Mhm. He's still right.
But marble would be a strange choice for bedtime reading, I would think.
yeah.
As someone here said.
Well, let's see if he surfaces again in her life.
For sure.
Okay, well, we are
Okay,
it's
thank
now
you.
2:35, and we will declare this
must
a done
go.
deal
Yeah.
for today.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. I learned
Thank
lots
you.
today. Thank